We're back now with Senator John McCain. I want to just go back to Iran. What exactly, Senator, do you want the president to do?
I'd like to see the president be stronger than he has been, although I appreciate the comments that he made yesterday. I think we ought to have America lead. When you look at the statements by President Sarkozy, Chancellor Merkel, and Prime Minister Brown have been much stronger. We should lead. And I also think he should point out that this is not just an Iranian issue. This is an American issue, what we're all about. Bob, I opposed waterboarding because I thought it was torture. And I did so because I thought it was a fundamental human rights issue. The United States' commitment to observing human rights and the rights of the individual. This is really, I think the president ought to expand this issue beyond just those demonstrators, although they are certainly our hearts and our sympathy goes out to them and their families.
Speaking of waterboarding, that brings us to Guantanamo. During the campaign, both you and President-elect Obama, or candidate Obama at that time, both said that you thought that it ought to be closed. But you never got around to how do you do it. And now we have that controversy. Your party is steadfast in opposing the president's plan to close it now. What do you want here? Are you willing to help the president work out a plan to close it, or do you think now, on reflection, maybe we should just keep it open?
Again, Guantanamo Bay, and this is a good segue, the prison has become a symbol throughout the world, no matter what the treatment is. The harsh treatment stopped a long time ago, but it's still a symbol out there. The mistake I believe that the president made was to announce the closure within a year without the overall comprehensive policy as to how you address the detainees that you can't send back to the country they came from, those that you want to keep but can't try and convict because they would pose a danger, and you know some who have gone back or already back in the fight, the military commissions, all the aspects that are the tough details that matter whether you would be able to close Guantanamo or not. And so we find ourselves in a quandary with a public reaction, a very strong one, because we haven't formulated or certainly put into play a overall comprehensive policy as to how we're going to address these issues. Yes, I've been working with the president, working with Senator Levin, the Armed Services Committee, Senator Lindsey Graham and others, and I hope we can resolve this issue soon.
So you are working on some kind of a plan?
Yes, indeed. And we need to, including
well, just
military
tell me
commission.
basically, what do you think you ought to do with these people?
Well, first of all, I think that we ought to have a military commission that goes through as such as already in the law. I think that if we have people who we cannot release because they would go back into the fight, there has to be a periodic review of their case. And that periodic review could be done by a military commission, a special court, such as here in Washington, D.C., as to whether they should be kept or not. To those that we can't send back to the country that they came from, we should be working with countries that might take them. The fact that we won't isn't a great example. But and then this is, and I'll also emphasize, this is an ongoing issue. There are prisoners now in Bagram in Afghanistan who are foreign nationals, who are not Afghans. And that presents, again, this policy situation.
Could you foresee ever bringing any of them back to this country?
I think if you convince the American people that you had a safe and secure place to put them, that you had an overall and comprehensive plan to do so, but to just say, we're going to send them someplace in the United States, it arouses the obvious reaction, NIMBY, not in my backyard. And I fully understand that. I don't want them in Arizona either. So we're going to have to, you'd have to now, because of the damage that's been done by we didn't have a comprehensive package, you got quite a selling job. And right now, without a policy, I would not support sending them to the United States either.
So you want to see more details. How do you think President Obama's doing so far?
I think he's done well. I think he has been, if you want to look at a legislative scorecard, he has achieved literally every one of his legislative accomplishments. Unfortunately, it's by picking off a couple of Republicans. It's not been bipartisan. So there really hasn't been that change in the climate in Washington. But, you know, that elections have consequences. On the issue of national security. I think the president is facing a major challenge here, North Korea and others, and so it's sort of an incomplete. Healthcare is another major challenge.
What about healthcare?
I'm on the HELP committee. We have been having these endless conversations and some amendments without two major portions of the bill, with two major portions of the bill being blank. I've never seen anything like it since I've been in the Senate.
And those are?
One on the whether there'll be government plan and whether employers will have to provide, will be required to provide insurance to their employees. I mean, there's the two major fundamental problems with the issue. The Finance Committee, the other committee, as you know, has now said they won't come to a decision on how you pay for it until after the election. Look, a real devastating blow to their plans was a Congressional Budget Office report last week that said the present plan, the one we're considering in the Health Committee, would only insure 1/3 of the uninsured and would cost $1 trillion. Now, you do the math, comes up to $3 trillion, and so far we have no proposal for having to pay for it. Now, banging around out there is the employer-provided health benefits, which I had proposed during the campaign, and so they keep walking up to that edge and then moving back. But we also, in my view, obviously, we have to have a $5,000 refundable tax credit for every family in America to go out and get their own health care. Now, there was a poll today showed that people are willing to pay more taxes for quality health care. But it also says they like their own health care plan. So we could provide people with their own health insurance and by bringing the costs under control. It's not the quality of health care in America that bothers Americans. It's the cost of health care and the inflation associated with it.
Senator, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me
being
on,
with us
Bob.
this morning. We'll be back in just a minute.